Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The Silverlight shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you tuning in today, we welcome you in. One of the more fascinating events in human history, and one that continues to hold a certain enchantment for me, was the human population bottleneck. Now, for those of you that don't know, about between 1.1 million years ago and 0.9 million years ago, human population crashed. Instead of having 7.5 billion human beings like we do today, there's somewhere between 3,000 and 1,500 human beings. Yeah, there's some disparity between numbers. But the fascinating thing about it is the climate changed, so humans were forced to wander. We're talking tribes of maybe 10 to 20 people. And they would make their way to the nearest oasis, nice place to live, wherever it was, and set up there. Which means everybody came out of Africa. And we all trace our lineage back not only to genetic Eve and genetic Adam, but those same roughly 2,000, let's call it up the middle, but roughly 2,000 people that existed in the same period of time. So everything you see on all the people around you, you got blonde-haired white people, you got black people with those beautiful hazel eyes, you got Filipina people, and again, amazing diversity just in that. We all still come from the same basic 2,000 human beings. This shows a lot about us as a species. First of all, it shows why there's only between 1 and 2% genetic difference between us, chimpanzees, and bonobos. Remember, chimpanzees and bonobos are equally closely related to us. Yet our behavior is entirely different. I mentioned this once before, but the only difference seems to be humans ask more questions. You could teach a chimp, a bonobo, an ape, whatever it is, all the language in the world. But they won't ask questions. You can ask them, well, where's the TV remote? And they'll say, oh, it's over there, no problem. But if they lose the TV remote, it doesn't think of them to ask that question. Human beings were designed around a social structure. Again, it might be a small band, it might be a big band, Glenn Miller, but it still matters that we were basically evolved to form into small groups and do whatever it took to survive. Now, how does this relate to us? Almost a million years later, living in our high-rise apartments and our air-conditioned houses during the summer and heated houses during the winter? Easy, because we asked questions. When things got tough, we got moving and moved into areas like we moved into Europe and found the Neanderthals. Well, the interesting side effect of going into Europe is between 10,000 and 6,000 years ago, two unique mutations appeared: blonde hair and blue eyes. A lot of people have taken these two traits to mean we are somehow superior to other races. It means nothing of the sort. It means the environment favored people who had blonde hair and blue eyes because there's less melanin, I believe is the actual chemical name. If I'm mispronouncing it, please feel to correct me in the comments. There's just less melanin in our DNA because we're covered up all the time, so we need every bit of vitamin D we can get. The black skin color has kind of evolved multiple times. And do you know why? It is an excellent way to deal with a lot of ultraviolet. Clothes do appear to predate this great migration, this great extinction, but we're not 100% sure. What looks like something can be something else. Until it's proved, I'm going to leave it off. But if you're sitting in sub Saharan Africa and it's intensely hot, or in the Caribbean and the same factors are arising, you kind of want any way to feel comfortable that you can, and the human body provides for that. In Asia, where the Denisovians start coming into things, well, you know what? Humans may or may not be better than these other near human ancestors, but there's one thing we like to do, and that's to mate with them. So we adopted some of these genetics from them. So far, research seems to indicate we didn't adopt a lot, but just enough to make today's people look very different than they would have been in the past. At the same token, we have to reconcile this with the fact that very early, well, even today, Africans present the most genetic diversity of any other group. You take a group of Europeans, you take a group of First Nations, you take a group of Japanese, the Africans still have more genetic diversity. They have everything from Hottentots to, is albino still a racially acceptable term? I have seen it used by people as a self-description. I'm going to use it here as a place filler because I don't know a better word. I don't know anybody of that skin color, so it's just going to serve as a placeholder for now until somebody tells me differently. And I openly welcome you to do so. So what we have is a natural disaster, and you know what? What humans did makes perfect sense. I think I personally skew to the upper number of human survivors because they had to repopulate the earth. There had to be a certain genetic diversity for them to be able to repopulate the earth and figure out, well, they didn't need to figure out, but genetics will figure out you don't get the, oh, why am I having trouble remembering the Habsburg nose and the Habsburg chin and stuff like that. No, you got enough genetic diversity, whereas these fellows over here, they didn't do so well at that whole genetic diversity. And we even see remnants of this in extremely early folklore. Abraham in the Bible twice says, well, he goes into a kingdom and he's afraid that they're going to kill him because his wife is rather attractive. So he tells Sarai, when they meet you, make sure that you tell them that you're my sister. And she does this. And twice, the Pharaoh of Egypt and the king of somewhere else takes this attractive woman because why wouldn't a king take a very attractive woman that's in the world with apparently a very good ally? Abram is not just a wandering priest. Abram has a flock of camels that are devoted to be nothing other than cavalry warfare animals. And he has groups of trained riders. What shepherd goes around with a force of 90 cavalry? No. Abraham was a diplomat. And remember, in the old days, if you could marry the sister, the daughter, somebody close to that formed a treaty. These kings were not being foolish. They're saying, hey, this Abraham is a great person, and he has a spare womanfolk in his camp. Sorry, ladies, this is the Bible I'm talking about. But there's that weird, she's my half-sister, the son of my father, though not of my mother. This is also repeated in Egyptian and Sumerian, and from what I can see, Japanese and other Asian mythology, the fact that a divine couple are going to be half-sisters. Well, the funny thing about mythology is it tends to remember things. It remembers them good. It puts a spin on them, which is gonna happen, but our mythology is one of the most important things we can do to try to reconstruct what happened way back then. Because the good stories never die. While I don't think anything has probably survived from that long ago because our language developed in a lot of different ways. Let's look at numbers. Currently, we use what are called Arabic numerals, but they come from India. Just the first place our Western ancestors, and I'm sorry if you live in another country, but if you're using Western numerals, you're using Arabic numerals, which are therefore Indian numerals. It's just that where our ancestors first found them, we called them Arabic because they're being translated from the Arabic manuscripts. Now, why did we evolve that? The Chinese evolved another system. The First Nations had a few different ways to count. I mean, we got 10 fingers. You would think you would count to 10, but the ancient Sumerians counted to 16, which, if I could show you on my hands, does actually make sense. Just think of the way that kids do to place mark, and your right hand would be your tens column, and your yeah, let's say the left hand, and the right hand is your singles. So you're able to get different number combinations off the same two hands. Now, why is their number system the first one that pops up in history? Because old people, sorry, not old people, what the heck, old people, young people, all sorts of people needed to count things. Hey, I saw a whole flock of aurochs over there. We can eat like kings for a long time. How many did you see? Lots. We did, however, come up with the need to count because it fits a basic survival strategy like I just illuminated. How many aurochs did you see? This many. If we don't have that system to count, we're kind of screwed. But the same token, it evolved with us. The people, I'm going to say 30,000 years ago, because 30,000 years ago, the last ice age really starts to end. And the oceans start to rise. And it's an entirely different world than it was 90,000 years ago. What we're seeing is those remnants of humanity that have recovered from this absolute disaster, population destruction, and have now moved all over the place and are finding the same basic problems no matter who you are, where you are. You got to eat, you got to find food. And since we are a social animal, we do that by working together. Don't know whether that would have adapted the same had we not had that population bottleneck. It forced us into survival situations that would have put an emphasis on retaining the skills of the elderly who had learned in bad weather. Yeah, we go down by the mountaintops and there's not a lot of water there, so we're going to need to take that water with us, but there's all sorts of game that's there. Oh, and I think last time I was there, I spied off in the distance bunny rabbits, and then they have some bunny and beef stew or whatever the heck that they're going to do. That's why we see even some of our most ancient ancestors burying their elderly with care and respect because of that knowledge they gave to us. I think we have 90,000 or 900,000 years ago, sorry, nearly a million. We have that 900,000 years ago break in our population for us to say, hey, the elderly are a prime source of information. They remember last time there was a hurricane, a tornado, most of the population dying off. And that's where I think we really, truly start to become human. It's something to think about. It's a fun topic for me to think about because I'm not living through it. I'm sure it wasn't very much fun for them. No food, no nothing. You have to work gathering everything because we don't have any evidence of crops before about 25,000 years ago. It's a radically different world, but each one of us came through it. No matter where you are, whatever you're doing, your ancestors lived through that. And we all came out of Africa. It's time we all start appreciating how close we really are to one another. But with that, we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Silverlight Show. If you did, please like, share, because sharing is caring. don't forget to click the subscribe button because, well, make sure you haven't subscribed already, and every subscription is welcome. If you want to, please click the button down below that signs you up for notifications every single time we publish a new episode. That way you can enjoy everything we put up, and we hope you have a fantastic day.